Greetings, this is Ty Brown with D1 Ticker and Coaches.wire. We're here at the 2023 American Volleyball Coaches Association's National Convention. I'm joined by Keegan Cook. Keegan is the head volleyball coach at Minnesota. Greetings, Keegan.
Thanks for having me, Ty. Good to be here.
Happy to have you on here. Looking at the last year, we got to the round of 32 in the tournament, NCAA tournament. This is your first year there, right? You come in and you take over for someone who won a lot of games. And sometimes that can be intimidating. Sometimes we're up for the challenge. Tell me about that aspect of coming in and wanting to keep a culture moving in the right direction where the culture was kind of built, but you still want to come in and do your own thing there.
Yeah, a unique transition, not like most coaching moves, right? Usually you're coming in because things weren't going well.
Exactly.
And so rarely, it's kind of the second time I've found myself in this position following a Hall of Fame coach who's extremely accomplished. And I felt the same thing at Minnesota that I felt at Washington, which is a responsibility to continue success.
Right.
And they're different transitions, but they share that in common, that there's some deep meaning and a history of success that you want to add to. And I know myself that's something that motivates me, is to make sure the work I'm doing has deep meaning, and Minnesota was the right place.
Continue the success there. The previous coach is in an advisory role there at Minnesota, right?
Yeah, Hugh McCutcheon is still with us, as an associate AD for Olympic sport development. And it's a role, I had it similarly at Washington with Chris Peterson, who occupied a similar type role, a mentorship role. Coaches want to talk to coaches, and to have someone in the department who you can talk to, who understands clearly the challenges that face you, it's invaluable and something that I'm really thankful to have in Minnesota.
Yeah, which is excellent. I've always wondered, I worked a long time with the Football Coaches Association, and one thing I wondered is when a new coach comes in, if the program is in good is healthy, do you talk to the former coach about players, or do you get you try to come in and create your own opinions about, trying to figure that part out?
I think you go in any transition seeking to understand the entire entity. It's so large, but the players first, right? You want to have some good questions to ask the first time you walk into the office of the previous coach. So I think I probably waited a good month or two where I had my own interactions where I could ask questions that were worth his time, and he's been nothing but helpful and supportive in those moments.
Yeah, that would allow you to make your own opinions, and then his input would have gave a little context for you.
Context and clarity, invaluable for sure.
Yeah, you had some success there at Washington. A few Pac-12 championships, and you come to Minnesota, we make the tournament first year, and the thing about culture, and it's interesting now in the shape of the NCAA and how things are moving around. I wonder about the health, right? The health of the game of volleyball. What do you think about it? What are your general thoughts? Because I know coaches have thoughts about the game, what we do, the profession, all those things.
Thoughts, opinions, free advice, right? I think you got to look at it from a bunch of different perspectives. Is there opportunity for student athletes? There's more than ever. Are there opportunity for coaches? More than ever. How's our media coverage? Is best it's ever been. How's our attendance? Best it's ever been. There's new interest in the sport, new investors, professional leagues popping up. So it feels to me like a watershed moment in our sport, and I'm excited to be here at this time.
Being at Minnesota is a part of a Power 5 conference, and you see a lot of things happening when you talk to the Power 5 conference as if everybody has a bunch of money. But I don't know. We know that's not always the case. Resources range in college athletics. But being a Power 5 conference, NIL is a big thing. Transfer portals are big things. So I wonder how that has impacted you in terms of volleyball, in terms of being season one there in Minnesota and planning for the future, and just your thoughts on how the landscape of college athletics, these two major things are actually in a landscape that was always changing. They come in, and the inflection point of change has been big within 1 year. So tell me about your thoughts on those.
I think when you start talking about the transfer portal or NIL, I think it's a reflective space. It says more about you, the way that you interpret it. It says more about you than the actual situation. Right. The transfer portal to me represents opportunity for student athletes to be in the right places. It means coaches need to be accountable to coaching their athletes well.
Sure.
It represents opportunity to bring in the right people, and so I view it from a positive standpoint. That's how you have to choose to view it.
Yep.
You could view it from a fearful place, and you're not going to like where that takes you. So I think that's how I choose to view that. NIL, I think about investing in young people. We've always invested in young people. I had people invest in me when I was young, and it changed the course of my life. So to have the opportunity to invest in athletes financially, these are good kids. They've got big dreams, and they work hard. And we've always been invested in them financially, just in different ways. And this is just another form of the same thing. So again, I view it from a positive standpoint, and I think that helps me navigate what are some tricky circumstances in this modern day.
How do you see the effect on the game, like volleyball? How do you see the effect of transfer portal and I imagine, this is an assumption of mine, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, when you talk about culture, you try to, and my words are that actually my words are from a high school coach in Minnesota, high school coach named Ron Stolsky, football coach, said that the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of, right? I live by that now. And you know, if people are changing in and out each year, it's kind of hard to create that culture. But if you can create and maintain that culture, maybe people won't leave unless they have some circumstances that force them to. So I wonder about the effect on your approach to creating a culture as a leader, and then how do you think, do you think it will heavily affect the game of volleyball, or is this more of a basketball, football type situation?
No, I think it's in our sport. I think it's created parity and rapid growth in some programs that have, which is good. You want your sport to be healthy. You don't want to see the same 10 teams, kind of dominating. So I like what I've seen here early. I think people are culture. I do think it's challenging all of us to have a different paradigm about moving in and moving out of a situation. We used to view it with a lot of, what's wrong? And now you think about successful organizations, they have about 10% turnover in their organization. And so I used to fear players leaving. In my 8 years at Washington, we had no players transfer or quit. And and in my first week at Minnesota, we had some athletes leave. And so I had to come to grips with this is the new world, and how am I going to respond to it, and how am I going to view it? And that's the key. You just got to keep adapting in coaching now more than ever.
Now more than ever, exactly. Rules in the NCAA, you saw what Charlie Baker, the leader of the president of NCAA, his thing was like, we're probably going to break away some of the big conferences and allow the rest of NCAA to flourish on its own instead of trying to keep up with the big conferences, worded in however he worded it.
Yeah.
So I wonder about what your thoughts on that. Will it affect the sport of volleyball you think about conference alignment now and traveling across the country for different things? So to talk to me a little bit about that aspect of it.
Yeah, again, lots of ideas, not a lot of, okay, here's what's going to happen. The expansion of the Big Ten is the first thing on my mind. What's that going to be like for the student athletes? We're going to find out pretty quick. They'll let us know what they think about it in this first year in 24. The idea of additional divisions, there's always been divisions in college athletics, and people find themselves in the space that most aligns with where they're at that point in their life, right? Some people want to be at the highest level. Some people want to be at an educational institution that matches their values. And so I just think there's going to be more spaces for people to find themselves. And then the idea of bringing the NIL aspect into the departments, right, where they are part of that fundraising, I think is really healthy. Outside entities have done a lot for student athletes, but it took them a while to get organized. It's a lot of heavy lifting. I think it's cleaner just to have institutions be in control of student athlete support. I trust them to do the right thing.
There will be an apparatus there if the institutions are in control, is what it sounds like, as opposed to third-party entity and who knows how they operate, right?
Yeah, I think you know the people, they know your athletes, you know that there's safeguards to protect your athletes. That's usually what's on our mind, is just making sure our kids are safe. Yeah.
I'll ask you a couple of questions here, and then we'll wrap. The first one is, if you could push a button and have what you believe would be the best legislation versus rule, best legislation for the game, what would you like to see?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I think about with the expansion of the college football playoff is that it's going to move into some of our championship events. So if I really had control of the calendar, I'd like to move the season up a few weeks. Let the athletes have a little bit additional time for training. Let the season end a little bit sooner. so that there isn't a conflict with the college football playoff
Right.
expansion. I think that's what I think about would be good for the growth of our sport. That's kind of the easy one for me.
That's easy, yeah. And then if you think about on the court, right, rules for the game, are there any rules you think could probably use a refresher? Or
I think about, again, player safety. Every sport has got plays where they create rules to protect athletes. So quarterbacks and roughing the passer. If you jump under a jump shooter, you're getting a flagrant foul. The space that is the most dangerous in our game is the net. And players landing in and around the net. Our game's getting faster. Offenses are getting more complex. And there's some situations that make me a little bit nervous that we got to make sure we're protecting our players, because you'll change lives, right? A knee injury or ankle injury can change the course of a student athlete's life. And so just a great coach told me it's a better game off the net, and I agree. And I want these kids to have healthy careers. So just some rules that'll protect our athletes in that space.
Which is excellent. Always looking out for the student athlete. Last question here is about leadership. If you can give a couple pointers on creating a culture for success for someone who may be watching, listening, who wants to be a successul head coach in the game of volleyball.
Yeah, the people you hire is most important, right? The assistant coaches are the closest to your athletes, right? The farther down you go, the closer they are to your athletes. Those people are really important. And then I think you got to receive bad news well. You got to handle bad news well. The best leaders I know, they meet bad news every day, and they handle it in alignment with their values. They handle it with poise and professionalism, and that's what you get when you choose to be in our role. So I try and meet bad news with some poise when it happens.
Which is excellent. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you joining us here on D1 Ticker and Coaches.wire.
Yeah, nice talking with you.